Hola, Javier. Gregg Wilson, con su impresionante balón, será nuestro moderador y yo quería dejar solo una pregunta en la mesa. Uno se hace fan de un equipo a veces porque lo era su abuelo, porque lo era su padre, por el barrio en el que vive, por el lugar donde crece, pero sobre todo a veces por nexos familiares. Yo creo que ese fan ya lo tenemos y lo tenemos para siempre. De equipo no se cambia nunca, ¿no? Antes se cambia, como se suele decir, hasta de pareja, ¿no? Pero de equipo nunca. Pero mi pregunta es, ¿cómo conseguimos fans nuevos? ¿Cómo hacemos crecer el mundo de los fans? ¿Cómo a alguien que no ha crecido o nacido en una familia que tenga una gran pasión por el fútbol lo convertimos finalmente en un fan? Con esa primera pregunta les dejo. Gracias.
Hello, my name is Gregg Wilson, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Paranoid Fan. It's a social mapping utility that basically works with teams and brands to make things easier for getting around a venue. So I know what everyone else is thinking here. You're looking at me, you're going, where in the world did I get my tie? But that's really not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about what this represents, fans across the world. What is a fan? Where do they buy their tickets? Do they get them online? Do they go to a scalper? How do they get to the game? Do they use an Uber? Do they take a taxi? Maybe they drive their own car, and if so, where do they park? How much do they pay? When they get to the venue, do they buy apparel? Do they buy their hats and jerseys online, or do they buy it right from the stadium? What do they eat? What do they drink? How much do they pay there? How often do they do that? When they do watch games, obviously at the venue, that's one thing, but how do they watch games when they're at home? Do they watch it from their living room, or do they meet up with their friends? Do they go to the pub? And then from there, do they engage on social media? Do they talk about their team incessantly, or do they just check in once a week? So that's what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about fan engagement and its monetization. And we have three experts in their individual fields, which I'm proud to be here with. We have Paul Rogers.
Hi everyone. I work for AS Roma, head of digital and social media, previously at Liverpool Football Club for 14 years.
We have Javier Martínez.
Hello. I have entertainment and sports experience through 14 years in Disney and 4 years in Atletico de Madrid. Right after a week ago, I was officially a member of Atletico de Madrid family, and now I'm leading the international expansion of Microsoft Sports Innovation Center.
And finally, we have Jason Lovell.
Hi everyone, I work for a company called Jaunt. We are market leaders in the creation and distribution of virtual reality content.
So let me start off. My first question is for Javier. So obviously you have solid international expertise. You've worked with Disney for 14 years, almost 4 years with Atletico de Madrid. And currently you're leading the international expansion of Global Sports Innovation Center, which is powered by Microsoft Sports. It's clear that your focus is to merge entertainment, sports, and innovation. So when you consider the recent opening of a stadium such as the Metropolitan Wanda, how important was it to engage fans during all those phases of construction and then ultimately leading up to the inauguration of such a large project of that scale?
Well, actually, we were talking with Paul backstage. The relevance of having a new stadium. It's it's a game changer for any of these modern sports teams. It's really important to involve your fans from scratch. Especially we had a very interesting case because Calderón Stadium was an icon, and generations been there. So all the emotional link to the stadium was there, and it was a totally different type of project. It was in the middle of the city, so we need to start working with the fans and involving everybody to create that momentum. So there was a sort of inclusive pedagogical task that we've done through the traditional communicational channels such as social media, the press. We need to have conversations with the fans also. For us, fans is the DNA of the club. We are a very passionate. I talk about we because I also a fan, Atletico fan. I don't work there anymore, but I consider it my club. So this is why I talk as we feel that the fans' passion is the DNA of Atletico. Anybody who knows Atletico knows that we are very passionate. It's part of our DNA and key brand equity. So we engage people, talking to them, reaching them through the different platforms, being very open and very transparent, doing all the follow-up on how the construction site was built through our media with specific content, delivering very specific content and personalized content to our fans. Also, we worked on the commercial piece. The commercial team did an amazing job doing the transition from one stadium to another, and we increased all the sales, we increased the seasonal tickets, we launched a new concept on hospitality, which is something really key on a new stadium. So the reception that we had from the fans and the involvement was fantastic. And there you have the living proofs that there are very, very few. I haven't heard, but there might be some comments that are not positive. Everybody's really happy with this new state-of-the-art stadium.
Oh. Jason, I guess my next question is for you. In the world of virtual reality and augmented reality, it's very exciting to a lot of people. I feel it's important to point out that your most notable work around football has been your piece with Manchester City, which was very, very well received. Would you mind elaborating on that and how that engaged fans?
Yeah, I think fundamentally with any new media, especially something like immersive tech, so VR, AR, I think anything like that that's had a lot of excitement around its possibilities. I think the key really is not so much in looking at what you do. It's really that thought process behind, as a fan, what would you want to experience as being part of that? So it's all about, for me, it's about creating experiences that are unique for that platform. So one thing we always try to do is say, if you're making a piece of VR content, if you are trying to create something new, it has to be genuinely new. It has to be something that the user puts that VR headset on their head and they experience something they couldn't experience with a normal media. So we always say, if you can get that experience using 16:9 or whatever normal media is, it's not worth doing. VR is really about doing something genuinely new. And so with Man City, what we did is we realised that actually there wasn't so much value in trying to replicate a match day, the actual match itself in VR. What we tried to do is create a new experience, the kind of a whole idea of a ticket you can't buy. So taking fans behind the scenes, the dressing room, the build up to the game, walking up to the stadium, even after the game, even what happens, after the game is finished. And actually, it was Chelsea versus Man City, and it was Man City Chelsea, and I'm a Chelsea fan, so it's quite a good day for us. But really showing people something they couldn't see just by watching the game on Sky Sports or whatever it may be. So for us, it was a great way of showing that using VR, VR's great power to kind of transport the user, immerse them in a situation. Actually, you can take that person wherever they are in the world, they can put that headset on and you can transport them to Manchester and they can be there at the stadium with the fans, get that real feeling that they're there without being there, if that makes sense. So for us, it was a great way of showing just how powerful VR can be as a way of engaging fans in a new way.
And I find that fascinating because as a fan, that's the kind of experience I'm looking for as well. Paul, your expertise in the world of both digital and social media is incredibly impressive. It definitely helps AS Roma communicate with new and existing supporters. And after reviewing some of your material, I have to admit I'm a fan of it. One that comes to mind is the Pellegrini signing video on Twitter, which received tremendous accolades across the football community. How important in doing that video do you find it is to bring humor to the stage? Because I guess the question I'm really asking, at what point, what was your thought process when you said, I'm going to show an image of goats standing on a tree?
Well, I think, as anyone knows, the football world, in the summer, in the transfer window, players are moving from all sorts of clubs to different clubs. So there's a lot of announcements being made by different clubs. I think we set out to try and make people sit up and take notice. I think when you talk about fans and football clubs talk about fans, I think we were also looking at not just our own fans, but almost like the secondary fan market. So with social media, I think Real Madrid and Barcelona have about 105 million Facebook followers each. And my view is that they're probably, many of them are the same people. Because I think lots of football fans follow lots of different football clubs. So that's not 210 million people. So I think, we were looking to engage not just our own fans, but also fans of other clubs. And we tried to use humour in a way. I think football's become so serious. It's certainly when you talk about transfers, you're talking about net spend, you're talking about financial fair play, contract clauses. It's almost like you have to be an accountant or a lawyer to understand some of the terminology being used. So I think we try to inject a bit of humour into it and basically try and entertain people. I think going back to what Jason was saying before about there's no point making one piece of content the same and then trying to put it on another platform. I think everything comes down to, is it good content or not? Is it entertaining or not? Is it interesting to a fan or not? And if it's not those things, then you've got to sort of question why you're doing it. So I think we tried to inject that bit of humour. We tried to entertain not just our own fans, but also other fans of other clubs who, we're not going to switch a Bayern Munich fan to become a Roma fan or a Chelsea fan to become a Roma fan. But we might have them say, I quite like what they're doing on social media. Maybe they're my favourite Italian team, or maybe they're my second favourite team, because that market, of sort of secondary fans is far bigger than any one club could ever have for their own.
Well, and Javier, obviously with fans being the focus today, what's the most significant improvement you've seen in, I guess, this next generation of the way venues and the overall engagement, how it specifically impacts fans, say, than compared to what it was 10 years ago?
Well, basically, the main change is that you need to, of course, to create a memorable experience. So the digital, again, I'm a great believer that digital is okay, but if you don't have the right things, the core things, well done, then the digital, you may use all the strategies you can, but you have to have the right show, the right product, the right experience. So the good thing about the future, or what's going on right now, is that with all these advances, technology allows you to have a living thing. You have to have an interactive. You have there everything to do amazing things, as being there backstage or providing new content. Content is the king. Again, this is a cliche, but it's true. If you don't have the right content, you won't engage people. And there you can also you can expand the engagement with those fans at a level that you can increase also all the revenue streams related to the event itself. So you might have all the levers, such as promotions, food and beverage, hospitality, commercial side. So nowadays, a new stadium, the new technology, so how it will look in 10 years' time, it will be a living thing. It's a story that is never ended. You will have interaction in real time, and this is the beauty of all these technological revolution. So this is core for the business, and to really keep the pace, where in a scenario where entertainment and sports are merging. I think that you cannot separate that now.
No, you're exactly right. And Jason, with the fan experience improving basically at virtually every turn, just like Javier was mentioning, what do you believe is the ultimate goal here? I mean, when you talk about AR and VR, are we trying to make our living rooms feel like the stadiums, or are we trying to make the stadiums feel like our living rooms?
I think neither. I think, genuinely, anything like this, what you're trying to do, I don't think anything will ever replace going to a football match. I don't think VR will replace sitting on the sofa with your friends watching the game. I think with all of this stuff, ultimately what you're trying to do is enhance that experience. You're trying to find new ways, I guess, to the earlier point, of making it memorable, of making it, these days fans are, we're all bombarded with information from all sorts of angles, marketing, about products, about services. And actually, I guess the key really is to give people content that's relevant to them, that makes them want to engage with you, and also in a way that makes it enjoyable. Ultimately, if you're trying to engage fans, football, we all love football because it's a passion point for us, because we love the game. My wife detests how much I love football. She drives her nuts Saturday 3 o'clock, checking all the scores. So for me, as a fan, anything that allows me to feel closer to the club, closer to the game, more aware of what's happening, I'm all in for. And I think if anyone has seen the Microsoft video of their view of the future of NFL using HoloLens. I think that's probably the way it's going to go. If you see this video, everyone is, because football's sport is a social thing. People are around watching TV, but they're wearing their HoloLens, and basically things are appearing around the screen. So stats, player information, the stadium itself. So you can even have like a kind of 3D representation of that game in AR as you're watching it on the TV.
I like you.
So I think that's probably going to be the future. I mean, we're talking years away, but I think anything that we do, VR, AR, all of this stuff, ultimately should fundamentally allow that user to have a unique experience that makes them feel more engaged with their club.
Right. And Paul, taking that to the level of even the social media aspect, who do you think the target audience is when you talk about digital and social media? I mean, many people like to assume that millennials are probably the primary consumer of this content, but is that statement true? Do you see it differently?
I think it's very difficult. I mean, it's quite unique with football clubs because, my dad is in his 70s and, he's a massive Liverpool fan, very passionate about the team. And then my daughter would actually not even fit into the millennial category. I think she was born in 2003, so I think that makes her Gen Z. So you're trying to appeal to, kids who could be 10 years of age and younger, and then you've got fans who've grown up with the club. So I think you have to be relevant to all of those different sort of demographics, and basically I think we use different platforms or different communication tools to try and appeal and try and deliver content, which basically, as Jason said then, enhances the experience. Everything's about enhancing the experience, but I'd actually say that Gen Z is actually more important than potentially millennials right now, because I think it's about 25% of the American population, very, very influential in families. They've grown up around digital. They have access to more information than potentially their parents. So they're actually quite influential in terms of making decisions and money that's being spent. Like, they see, they understand the world in ways that potentially older people don't. So it's a bit of a broad answer to say we've got to try and appeal to everyone, but I think what we have to try and do is really, really tailor content to be relevant to the different demographics rather than be one size fits all, which I think fails on every level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, then considering all the demographics that you target then on a daily basis, what method have you found to be the most successful when it comes to at least monetizing the team's brand or their message?
I'm not going to sit here and say advertising is dead, but I believe that the best form of advertising is now content. So if you don't believe you're being sold something, I think you'd be much more likely to buy. I think the days of just being hard sell on people, we've got ad blockers. The new generations are adverse to advertising and being sold to. They want to make their own decisions. Yeah. So I think we've got to try and help them, help inform them and help sort of guide them and obviously influence them. And I think the way we've monetized things, the best way is by being authentic, not trying to push the sale at every level, and basically creating something that people want to share. People don't generally share adverts unless they're fantastic. Yeah, but if you want to broaden your reach and your audience, then basically create something compelling. Yeah. Create something that people, because everyone's got a personal brand. On social media, it's almost like that's your personal brand, and what you share and what you like and what you post may not be exactly who you are, but it's what you want to convey to the world. And I think if you can encourage someone to share something, then that means that they want to associate with that. We did Francesco Totti, who is well known obviously in Madrid and in Spain, spent 25 years at Roma, and when he retired in May of this year after 25 years with the same team, then what we wanted to convey in all of the content we create was this sense of loyalty that you basically don't see in sports these days. And when people chose to share that content, that said something about them and what they believe in, and the fact that they value loyalty. So we tapped into that, certainly.
I mean, I don't know. I guess, Jason, when we talk about content like this and even on the monetization level, do you believe that there's ever going to be a time where a fan might pay more money for a VR or an AR experience than the game itself?
I think it depends what it is. I mean, I completely agree with Paul just said that. I think fundamentally it's all about all of this stuff, regardless of the technology you use, it's storytelling. What resonates with people is still storytelling. It's still engaging them in something which is, as Paul said, they want to share. They want to re-experience. They want to share with their friends. And I think we find with a lot of the brand partners that we work with, both in sport and outside of sport, actually the old way of, say you're selling a Coca-Cola and it's like in your face, here's the product. It doesn't exist anymore. Actually, what we find resonates with people we work with is exactly that. It's more subtle storytelling. Actually, what you're doing is you're giving that viewer a really nice story, a good experience, something they actually want to be part of. And then as a consequence of that, their perception of your brand alters because you've given them this great experience. So I think, going back to your question, I think a lot of it will depend on what is made and what content looks like. If you are a club like Man United or Man City or whatever, and you've got millions of fans over the world, there's no reason to say that you couldn't create an experience where, those fans can be on the training pitch, or they can, have training schools with the players, or they can have some special backstage pass. But I think fundamentally, regardless of what it is, the experience has to be powerful enough that someone wants to experience that and they want to share it and they want to tell people about it. Because fundamentally, for me, that's the acid test. If Chelsea made a bit of content that allowed me to have an experience I just couldn't have in any other way, I couldn't go to the ground and have that experience, I couldn't have that experience watching it on TV, then I'd be interested, because then it is giving me something which is genuinely powerful and new. So I think that's the key. And I think you look at all of the research that's going into immersive tech, AR, VR, the whole piece, it is all around how you fundamentally utilize the power of this technology to give people new experiences that make them want to get that headset again and again and put it on their head. Because I guess that's the key for the whole industry. And I think you're seeing now with things like augmented reality, with Apple and Google having their own platforms now, how quickly that's scaling. What it's allowing is creators, the geniuses behind this stuff, to kind of have free reign on making experiences that they think and that we hope customers will engage with.
So, Javier, then I guess looking at how fans are experiencing a venue, this is a bit more of a serious question. Then, considering some of the recent and dangerous security threats that accompany large gatherings of fans, whether it's sports and music alike. How are the venues, I guess specifically, or the industry as a whole, planning to address the personal safety of these fans as they go to enjoy these events?
I think that the success of this should be guaranteed that people can go there and make it safe. Originally, I'm Argentinian. Going to watch a match at the stadium is a totally different experience than the one you can experience here in Europe. So safety is something that is crucial. I think we're living in a crazy world where we have terrorist attacks everywhere and violence is around the corner. Thank God, I think that safety is improving and the technology there is key. We have some fantastic cases with the Microsoft Sports Innovation Center. We have some associates that are doing this now, applying safety technologies into sports. For example, we have an example of a German associate of the Innovation Center that they developed systems that identify not only the face recognition, that is something a sort of commodity nowadays, but also they have behaviors recognition, which is if you leave, for example, a backpack or a bag, or someone is disturbing someone, the system identifies that and sends alarm. So you don't have to have, you cannot cope with everything if you're just looking at the different cameras. So it's fantastic how artificial intelligence is evolving and helping these kind of things. Initially, this was developed for train stations, and now they are applying it to sports. These are the kind of things that, honestly, I'm really thrilled with all the kind of initiatives that we are looking at these and putting together people in South America. They want to buy these services, and connecting these people and having such a different experience is fantastic. So I think that the ideal thing would be like the Minority Report film, that you can dynamically prevent any kind of violence or any kind of complicated or challenging situation. So there is how the technology is helping us. And once you have the technology, you need to have lots of coordination between clubs, organization, and also police or the security force. Because if you don't talk and you're not coordinated, no matter how much technology you have, that will be useless. So you have to be really, really coordinated, and also to have the legal backup, the legal setup in order to tackle these issues.
Right. Finally, this is a question for all of you. A decade from now, where do you see your specific industry, or more importantly, where would you like to see it go? Jason, let's start with you.
I think part of VR's kind of strength is also its weakness in terms of, there's so much, it's such a powerful platform that the potential is so vast. It's kind of working out where the real opportunities lie. And I think, for me, I can see a world in the future where you have a mixture of experiences that you can have in virtual reality with a headset, where you can perhaps, I don't know, maybe you have highlights from a certain place in the stadium, or you can be on the pitch, or you can, maybe it is around the fan engagement stuff, around all the behind the scenes, or I think that will blend with some of the augmented reality stuff in stadium, outside of stadium, where, the kind of game can be brought to life in a different way. But also I think there's a lot of potential for VR in terms of actually, when you look at football, look at the amount of data that's collected in football. I know there's a company exhibiting out there where, nowadays at a high level, you track every single movement of that player. Every millimetre of grass that's covered is tracked. And actually, when you think about it from a different perspective, when you have all of that data, VR, one of its great powers is kind of removing that data abstraction layer. You can, when someone is in VR and they have a headset, you can communicate to them pretty complex information, but in really innovative new ways. So I can imagine a world when actually within that, both maybe from a fan point of view and also maybe from the behind the scenes point of view, where actually you can take all of that great data, put it into VR and actually have representations of matches within that. So you can have complete, you can imagine a world where a game can be played and you can watch that game again almost from any angle at any time. So you have complete control over the whole experience, where you are in the stadium, whether you want to be, from a player's perspective, the ball's perspective. There's so much data that is captured in football that you can put in. And fundamentally with VR, because you are able to transport someone, to immerse them in that world, what you can show them, what you can tell them is a completely new story that they couldn't get from just watching it on TV. So actually the power of that is so vast. We're really excited about how we kind of delve into that over the next few years and work out where, and produce some great experiences.
So Paul, same question. What's digital and social media going to look like 10 years from now?
It's a tough question. It's almost an impossible question to predict entirely. I mean, I remember covering the Champions League final in 2005 when Liverpool were 3-0 down against AC Milan. And we were in Istanbul and there was no social media. We didn't have social media, so we thought we were busy and we were doing the website and we had text updates for mobile. But I think YouTube launched in 2005, I could be slightly wrong, but there was certainly no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was no Snapchat, no Instagram. So to see where we've come in those 12 years is massive. For me, I think the advent of social media was fantastic for fans and for players and for clubs. I now think that it's actually almost turned into a way where it's just another broadcast platform. I think you could almost take social out of it and just say it's media now. It feels to me that we've actually reached a point where brands are now back to just using these platforms, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or wherever, and just broadcasting at fans. I think we've lost a bit of that sort of social factor. So I would like to see social media sort of re-emerge as something social. I don't think, on Facebook now, I know all of the people. On Twitter, it's a bit of an echo chamber in terms of your own views. I think it's very hard to sort of connect. Well, not hard, but I don't think people connect as much. So I'd like to see social media become more social again and, based more around interest and almost back to where it was, where you sort of had chat rooms and, people could go and, engage with other people that they don't know but have shared interests. Because I think on our public social media platforms, I think people are very guarded and they're sort of your Facebook profile is almost like your resume or your CV now, because you probably know that, whoever employs you next or people who you work for are also on that platform. And I think, I have 2 young daughters, and certainly the older one who's 14, she's not on Facebook and she's not on Twitter because her teachers would be on it. That's why they use things like Snapchat. I think it's a bit more private. And she's very averse to adverts and things that if brands are pushing themselves on, into her Instagram feed, then that's, that horrifies her, as in like that annoys her. So I think there's still room for social media to become a bit more social again, and hopefully we'll see that. And the other thing I think is, with VR and stuff, I think creators, people didn't have the tools to be creators now. So I think, to be honest, the people who've got all these talents, whether it's filmmaking, whether it's storytelling, whatever they're doing, I think they've got a direct to market role now that they can play, and it's about the individual more than about the brand, I think. So I think, as brands and football clubs and all these things, when we stop thinking about ourselves and start thinking about, our audience and treating them as individuals, then I think everyone will be in a better place.
And then finally, Javier, what exciting innovation can we expect to see?
Well, I think, and I will build a little bit on your point, and then I pass to that. I think that the main challenge, and I put my club head, my club hat. I think that the challenge for clubs is clubs have lots of fans, but they don't have clients. They want to monetize those fans. And for many firms or brands, they have many clients, but they want to have fans. So this is sort of kind of Dr. Jekyll and Hyde, because they have different. I think that your job is very tough because you need to monetize and also to keep it social at the same time. So it's a hard way, because clubs want to monetize those millions of fans around the world. But it's very hard because, as you said before, you want to keep it social. You don't want to sell that. So I think it's a nice debate to have, how you monetize that without putting in danger and risk the social piece. Regarding how we see in the future the stadium, it's a living thing. It's something totally interactive, real time. A little bit I'm adding to what they said already. It's nothing new. Very personalized relationship with each fan, and I think it has to be the core. Let's say it should be sort of the center, the core of these live moments. Unique sports is unique because you can watch a film many times as you want, but the match, it starts and it ends at a certain time, and if you miss it, then you're gone. Then you can add different aspects, angles, and whatever. So this is why it's so important, and the content of especially broadcasting a sports event is so crucial for the broadcasters now, because they attract on real time, and it has a beginning and an end. So this is why it's so important. The way that you can interact with that on the venue where this is happening, it's the key in the future, in order to not only to attract or engage fans around the world, but also to leverage the whole marketing mix, all the revenue levers, because you can activate in different ways, and depending on the geographic situation, whatever you want to do. And the digital part will be key there, creating an ecosystem around the main event. You have to have all the layers there, all connected to that main event, to split it up, and also to have very clear objectives on each of the levels.
Can I just chip in on that point? I think 2 challenges that are going to emerge or are starting to emerge are, one, as the experience outside the stadium gets so good with VR and the second screen and everything you can do, and almost like the television broadcast, sometimes that's competing with people actually attending games. So, if your experience can actually be better at home, which is testament to all of the developments that people have done, then that's a challenge for people who have either got stadiums. So we're seeing great new technology emerging, certainly in the American sports stadiums and places like Atletico Madrid and what they've done. So I think enhancing the in-stadium experience and making it almost used to be the other way. It used to be like there's nothing can compete with going to a game, but now it feels like there are things that can compete with it. And if you can't deliver as good an experience, it has to be better, then why would you go? And then I think the second thing would be, I think we're seeing the sort of the attention span of a younger demographic is smaller and smaller. You know, so are people, young kids in the future, going to be sitting through 90-minute games, and that's football? If it's American football, then it's even longer, and if it's baseball, then I think, you know, potentially going to struggle. So, you know, if they're in the stadium, then you have to make that such a fantastic experience that can entertain them. I think the NBA's done a great job of this, particularly for a younger audience. But you have to like look at this audience who's going to come up, and I think we're seeing a big challenge to traditional sports with what's happening with esports, and I think esports is going to grow and grow and grow, and the challenge is being laid down to the professional sports to be able to compete with that, because otherwise you're going to find that this young audience who potentially haven't grown up going to sports games. In a lot of stadiums in England, it's very hard for young kids to actually get tickets to games, because sports teams want to sell adult tickets because they get double the money. So if these kids haven't been brought up like maybe I was, or like my dad was, going to games, then their sort of you know, their connection to these sports teams potentially is not as strong. So that's why esports is, you know, proving so popular, because these are the people that they're like them. These players and the gamers are basically the same as them, and they engage with those people. So I think that's a challenge that professional sports has to take on.
Well, gentlemen, I could talk to you guys forever. This actually wraps up our discussion on fan engagement and monetization. For me, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to them, talking to people who have the experience that you guys do in your individual fields. I know I speak for everyone at Paranoid Fan when I say we're proud to be corporate partners of this event. We're very proud to be here and to be amongst some of the greatest minds in this fantastic sport we all love. Can I give a huge hand here for Roger, Javier, and Paul.
We at Paranoid Fan bring maps to life. Whether it's the sport fans, the festival goer, or the live music lover looking to connect with others, we help connect people every day through common interests and provide them with a platform which allows live navigation and social engagement for the events that matter most to them. Our idea started at the World Cup in 2014 in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. People all around the world use our maps to mobilize themselves around live experiences. Paranoid Fan includes stadiums, casinos, conferences, festivals, and in some cases, even cities themselves. We are the leaders of a mapping evolution that focuses on bringing dynamic content to life. Our maps offer a unique experience by merging videos, photos, emojis, and social activity in real time. We want to make live experiences more enjoyable for both people and places.
He de decirles que esta mesa me ha encantado. Me ha parecido que ofrecía cosas que hace tiempo que no oigo. Yo trabajo en la industria de la comunicación, soy un periodista. En esa industria el foco está puesto en la digitalización, en la carrera digital. Pero hoy aquí he oído hablar de contenido y eso me gusta. Se habla muy poco del contenido. Con el contenido, alguien decía que era más importante incluso que la publicidad, porque con el contenido seducimos, y si seducimos seguramente podremos atrapar fans y seguramente también podremos vender mejor nuestro producto. Hemos oído hablar de algo apasionante, la realidad virtual. Ya es posible entrar en la habitación de un hotel que uno quiera reservar y ver si le gusta, si se puede mover. Pero yo me pregunto si en el futuro uno en casa podrá sentirse incluso como dentro de un estadio. Como decía Jason, ¿no? Podremos seguramente podremos fuera simular cosas que hagan del fútbol todavía algo para nosotros mucho más próximo, ¿no? Y luego he oído hablar a Paul de algo que me gustaba mucho. Paul ha hablado del humor. Perdemos el humor con demasiada frecuencia. Yo creo que el sentido del humor es algo que se debería enseñar, que se debería practicar, porque el humor además es un síntoma de inteligencia. Y él ha hablado del humor. Y ha hablado de otra idea que a mí también me parece fundamental, el segundo equipo. Es decir, yo decía al principio que si tu padre, tu abuelo son de un equipo, es muy difícil que tú no seas de ese equipo, ¿no? pero hay más mercado posiblemente, ¿no? Y todos tenemos algún equipo que a lo mejor no era el nuestro, no era el de nuestra familia, pero que por alguna razón nos acaba cayendo simpático, ¿no? Y acaba quizás atrayendo también a un concepto diferente al de segundo club que uno tiene para sí. Y luego me quedo con un titular, porque a mí me gusta mucho sacar titulares, es mi trabajo, y un titular que creo que ha dejado Javier. El estadio es un ser vivo. Se hablará mucho más de la rentabilidad de los estadios, ¿no? Y de por qué tenemos cerrado un recinto durante toda una semana solo para jugar un día, cuando en realidad tiene que ser ese entorno que sintamos como propio. Pues yo creo que ese también es un buen titular, el estadio es un ser vivo.